men, and I use the term loosely. I've had questions about doing a valve job on the rear cylinder and whether or not you have to remove the engine from the frame to get the rear head off and on. And the short answer is no. You can get the head off and on without removing the engine, but you have to leave the rocker box attached to it. So I'm going to install a head with the rocker box, and I'm going to show you how I torque them up. And here is that uniquely satisfying part of rebuilding the motor. I just love that part. It's pretty close fit. It's so close that you really should make sure the piston is not a top dead center. The bolts just barely fit, but they do fit. It's very difficult to get a wrench on them. The only thing I have found that fits from the top is a 1/4 inch drive flex head socket. Obviously, you can't torque them to 65 foot-pounds with a 1/4 inch drive socket, but you could get them started. Which is what I do. Anyway, they're in there and they're snug, so we need to torque them up. Okay, and here are the tools you might need, and I say might because you won't need all of these tools. You might need 1 or 2 of them. You might need to torque those head bolts. You will need, of course, the torque wrench. This works sometimes. This is an airplane cylinder base nut wrench. That works sometimes. This is, I believe, a dog bone wrench, is what they call these. And it has an extension, this flat extension bar, which has got a number on it. This is a Kenton Moore 3AK is one number, and the other number is EN 49181. And that's because of the way you have to access the head bolts. And then there is this. This is a homemade tool that I use. And basically it's a Craftsman box wrench that has been a hole milled in the end, and the wrench has been cut off to fit in the hole, and you can tighten it down with this. And it'll take a 1/2-inch square drive. The other thing you're going to need, depending on how you end up doing it, is the torque wrench formula. Yeah, it looks complicated, but it really isn't. Or on the internet, there are many websites, and this is actually a torque wrench extension app I have on my phone, and basically you punch your numbers in and it'll figure out what the value is. And of course the reason this is necessary is because if you extend the wrench, it takes less force on the handle because you have a longer lever arm than it would normally. So if you extend this by 1/3 of its length, you're going to need to put 1/3 less force on it. So if you had it set at 60, you extend it by 1/3, you're only going to need it to be set at 40 to achieve the same amount of torque. Now, the caveat to all that is this, and this is what I like to do. If your torque adapter is on your torque wrench at a 90-degree angle, you don't need to use the formula because it's not changing the distance from the spot where the socket would be located to the handle. It's the same from here to the handle as it is from here to the handle. Yes, there is a little bit of difference, but not enough, I think, for most of us to have to worry about. And this is common practice. If you have a adapter that's 90 degrees to the force, you don't need to change the force because the length to the handle is the same. So I think I'm going to try to show you how I use all three of these, and you can see what's going on. Okay, as I've stated in previous videos, I torque these up in 3 stages. We're going to go to 35 foot-pounds all the way around, and this is the homemade tool I made years ago. And technically, the problem with it is this little angle right here. The force needs to be applied straight on the head of the nut or the bolt, and this isn't quite straight, it's a little bit of an angle, so there's an error built in there. But you could fish that into the head bolt in the area where the push rod used to be. And obviously you can't use this method with the push rods installed. So I'll put this on at 90 degrees. And we'll try to go for the first increment at 35. Okay. I'm going to go for my first increment at 35. The device extension is at 90 degrees to the torque wrench, so I don't need to recalculate the value. The torque wrench is set at 35. And the problem is, of course, you don't always have the wrench end up in a spot where you could access everything you need. I can't get the flats on the wrench to line up with the heads of the bolt correctly, so I can't start again over here. So the only way I could get to this bolt right now is if I go straight on. And of course, if I go straight on, I'm adding length, so I've got to recalculate the torque value. Okay, I've done my calculation using the phone app, and it tells me with this 6-inch extension on here, my wrench needs to be set to 27. So I set the wrench to 27, and we're going to try to get this now up to what will be 35. Still no click. Let's take another bite, if I could get another bite. Yeah, I could get another bite. Click. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the other bolts. All right, I've reset the wrench to 35, and I'll get the 2 on the other side. Now I've got to get this other one down in here. And this is the problem. You see, I've not been able to find a combination of sockets that'll let you get straight down on these 2 bolts. Okay, my wrench has been reset to 27 because I'm going to use the extension on here. And now the tripod is in the way. Let's see if I can get on it again. Okay, I'm on it. Okay, and there's 35. That's this tool. Okay, the next tool I'm going to demonstrate is this here. This is a small opposed airplane cylinder base nut wrench. And it works pretty good. The problem with it gets to be that depending on where the hexes on the bolts end up, you may hit the frame or the rocker box before you get to the torque value you need. But in a lot of cases, this will work. So we'll, and the other advantage is, since the driving end and the driven end are parallel, opposite of each other, you don't need to recalculate any torque at all. You just set it to whatever it's supposed to be. So we're going to 50. And I made it just before the wrench hit the rocker box. And the advantage of this one is you could use it on all of them. You don't have to switch back and forth. 50. 50. And then this last one here. See, and I hit 50 just as I was running into the frame, so this barely made it. But it worked. Okay, and the last tool we're going to try out is this little dog bone wrench on this extension. And this extension is made by Kent Moore. It's an EN49191. You could probably make one of these. I think this is a Jaguar tool, I think. And these dog bones are basically the same principle as the cut-off craftsman wrench I have, except that they're straight instead of the little angle, so I'm going to get a more true value. And we'll snake this in through here. Okay, and we'll be able to put the torque wrench on perpendicular to the wrench. So I'm going to set it to 65. No extension formula calculation are required. And once again, I'm hitting the shock. I've run out of travel. Let's see if there's enough room here to get another bite on it. And not really. Maybe from this direction. There we go. And we got a click. And we'll go back to the extension and try to get this rear bolt. Okay, now the front end is in the way of the torque wrench. Okay, and now the shock absorber is in the way. So I can't get this one. Let's try turning the wrench over. Okay, I turned the wrench over and it changed the alignment of the box end so we maybe could get it. Okay, no click. Kind of like the lock-picking lawyer, huh? And a click. Beautiful. So this head is torqued. I'm going to go around one more time with the airplane wrench because that's easier, and just double check everything at 65. Anyway, that's high torque rear heads when the engine is installed in a frame. Yes, it does work. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes, it is. Is it as accurate as not having any of this mucky business? Yeah, I think it is. The mathematics and the physics of it says it should be. So anyway, this one is good to go. I am going to go around one more time and double check everything. And I am out of here. Hey, do me a favor. If you find this content to be the least little bit useful or informative, hit the like and subscribe for me. Thank you.